Okay, so welcome to part 2 of editing in Lightroom. On this shot, every shot is different, and that's something as well. You know, it's learning different techniques to deal with different situations. Now, once again, I'm shooting with RAW files, and this just emphasises how you need to think about how you're going to shoot when you're using RAW files and when you're using JPEGs. Now, with a JPEG shot, like I explained in the previous tutorial, you need really to try and get the shot with the camera. So you've got to really balance things and try to capture everything perfectly. And you're trying to do that all the time, obviously. But the thing is with the RAW is what I'm trying to do in this instance is I've got this little bit going on in the sky there. You can see I've got this light coming through and the sun behind the cloud. Not sure whether it's the sun or the moon, actually, not sure on that one. So we've got all this happening in the sky, and I didn't want to lose that. So if I had overexposed that to get this detail in the foreground and ended up with something like that, I'm losing all the information in the sky. So you've got to think how you take your shot, and in this one, you know, that's a bit darker and we have got the detail there, but I'm trying to get something that's erring on the edge of both parts. So that's the type of shot I'm going for. So really important to think about that. You've got to, you know, you don't want to blow the sky out to see so many shots, and this is what really sorts out the amateurs from the professionals. Is with a professional landscape, you never see the sky blown, and it's learning how to do that. So this is part of the process. Sometimes it may take more than one photo to do that, which is why I do things like this. I've got a bright one, I've got a dark one, and I've got that one, and I can combine all those if I wanted to. So I'm making sure that I've got the perfect shot. But I'm just dealing with one shot now, so we're just dealing with this one. And really, you know, there's a bit of a mist going on there. There's a mist or a frost, and you know, it's a cold winter's day, and really I don't want to lose that when I'm editing the picture. So I'm fine with the top of the image, that's great. So what I'm going to use in this instance, just one tool and one setting. I'm going to use what's called the graduated filter. Now, quite often this is used for skies. So you can drag it, I'll just do an example of that. I can drag it on the sky, and I could darken a sky, you know, make it more dramatic or whatever. Quite often, you know, you've overexposed the sky. Now, I don't want to do that, because what I want to do is to keep the sky like it is. I've exposed for the sky, but this is now too dark. And a nice quick way of putting this right and make it looking really natural is to use this graduated filter. So when I click on that, just like before, clicking on effect puts everything back to where it should be. And I'm just going to drag the exposure and just take it up to about 1. I don't know what sure that is, 1.6, 1.9, it really doesn't matter. And I'm going to drag upwards at an angle like this. I see I'm just dragging up like that. And let's just click done on that, because I don't really want to do anything else. I think that really is enough. It's just brought that in. But let's say I wanted to edit that. Let's say, well, I wasn't quite happy with that. We can go back to that setting. So we can go back to there. So you can see now we've got this button there, and it's not active. In other words, it's just grey. If I click on that, can you see it's black? And now what I can do is I can tweak that. So I can change it. I may actually bring it up a little bit and make it quite wishy-washy, because that's bringing out now how it actually looked when the mist that was rising. I couldn't see the mist before because it was underexposed. Now I've brought that up, and I just think that's a really nice image. It's just very natural, very light. And if you wanted to be perfect with it, we can look at the histogram. We can bring the blacks down just a touch. Take the whites up just a little bit. I don't want to take it too much on that. I might bring the highlights down just a tiny bit because I'm trying to retain this in the sky without it looking too unnatural. So just with that one setting there, we've now got a really nice image. So it's thinking about what tool do we use. And in that case, we're using quadrilateral adjustment. So that's a nice, easy way to do that. And it's a local adjustment again. So rather than try and do it all from one edit, we're thinking, how can I partition areas off and in a nice, easy, quick way to. So I just got control over the bottom of the image. I don't want to touch the top. And that, of course, works vice versa. If I was working with this image, which is overexposed, I could use that same gradiated filter. Let's just bring the exposure down now. I can try and bring it back with that now. It depends on how blown the image is, and you can see it doesn't matter how much I bring that down, I can't bring that detail back. I could add a tint of colour if I wanted to be a bit artificial, so I could bring the temperature and put a bit of blue in there, which makes a better image, something like that. But you can see, if I've blown that area where I was taking the shot, we can just about see that coming back there. Let's see if I can take it down there with the highlights. Let's take the exposure down. And now you can see it coming in. So we have got enough detail there. Okay, maybe I don't want that temperature on there. Let's just go back to that. And again, I can edit that. So if I go back to the gradiated filter there and I'll click on this, I can say, well, I'll put that back to how it was. Let's bring the highlights down a little bit. Let's bring this down. I really don't like it. Yeah, it's a struggle. And although you can get something close, it's nothing like this image. So a big part of editing is you can't always edit and get the best from a bad photo. So this is why it's really important to learn about your camera, to think about, I'm shooting in RAW, I want to keep the sky, I don't want to blow the sky. Sometimes you just got a bland sky, there's nothing you can do about that. You can replace it and things like that, but why bother? Just go back on a different day and take another shot. It's the best solution. But you know, you can, if you've got the shot in the first place and you've exposed correctly, in both cases with the previous cases you've talked about on the previous lesson and this one, we have had to, you know, we've underexposed. Now there are occasions when you need to overexpose, and I'm not going to go into much detail of that at the moment, but let's say you was photographing a bird in flight and you've got to take the ISO up on your camera really high, the ISO, to get more light to be able to freeze the action. In that case, you don't want to be underexposing, because if you do, when you've got black areas and you're shooting at an ISO area and then you take those black areas up by using the slider, by using the shadows or the black slider, you get lots of grain coming in straight away. So if you've overexposed very slightly without blowing it, you know, sometimes you'll blow the sky a little bit, you can't always help it, but you try to get it so you've just got it perfect where you haven't, you know, you're up the top end, the right hand side of the histogram, and then you can bring it down, and rather than bring the blacks up, you're taking them down slightly, and that's condensing those pixels rather than trying to bring them up, and you get less grain. So that is an instance when you overexpose slightly rather than underexpose. And another thing is you can take more than one shot, and not getting into that at all yet. That will come later on, because we'll learn how to do that in Lightroom and take a bunch of photographs and, you know, line them up and blend them together to get the exposure correct. Okay, so that's that tool, that's the gradiated filter. And we've got a similar type tool here, this is the radial filter. Now let's just see if I've got an image that will suit that. Okay, so let's have a look at this robin here. Let's just say I want to add a little bit of light. I could use the brush like I did before, but we could also use the radial tool. So if I use this radial tool, we double click the word effect, reset it. I'm just going to drag it up slightly. I'm going to draw a shape. Now if I move this around, you can see it's making it dark in that area. I actually want the reverse. I want to make it brighter. So I need to make sure that down here where we've got the settings in the box, we see the word invert, and if I click on that, now the exact opposite is happening. And I can bring this over the robin, I can resize it, I can rotate it, I can just add that little bit of light there, which just makes a quick, easy adjustment and gives a nice effect. So you can do that in any part of the image, obviously. Let's just drag over all of the image like this. So I've got that on, I've took the invert off, and now I can take the exposure down. Come down to those settings on there. Okay, so we got sharpness and all these. What I want to do is just to feather that so we can see the feather there. That will just make it softer or harder. So just feather that a bit. And we can create a vignette. I know there's other ways of doing that, but you can see. So we can create circles in different areas and invert the selection to get exactly what we want from the image. And then once we've clicked on done and we're back to this, we can then make an adjustment over all of the image. Once we've got the light roughly where we want it, and now we've got our completed image. And the little robin there. So that's using the radial and using the gradient to do really quick, fast edits, and you know, they both work really well. But like I say again, every image is different. It's learning all these techniques, trying them on different pictures to get exactly what you want. Let's say this part was a little bit bright, for instance. It's looking a little bit bright by his foot. I could do another circle down there. Now this time I want to invert the selection. So I want it to affect there. And I want to bring that down. So we just darken that area. Okay, so I'm going to do another one and just do that here. Let's just zoom in a little bit. I need to invert the selection again because it's happening the wrong way around. There we go. Take the exposure down. Rotate that slightly. Click on done. So now you can see we've adjusted two parts to take down the highlights on the actual bark there. We've took down the outside and we brightened up the robin. If we just click on reset and get back to the original image, you can see the big difference, although it was cropped slightly from there. But you can see straight away that how you can really edit and get in there and make these local adjustments using these different tools.